program for students with special needs who have graduated from high school and chose to defer their diploma for a year so they can learn job skills and life skills. The goal of the program is for the students to become gainfully employed in the community. Some of the life skills that the students learn are how to write the RTA, they work on communication skills, and they learn how to budget their money. The students are in the program for 1 school year. They start the program in August and end in May. The students learn job skills by volunteering at 3 different sites: Sinclair Community College, the University of Dayton, and the Gospel Mission. At Sinclair Community College and the University of Dayton, the students work in the dining hall where they learn customer service skills, serving customers. They also learn stocking skills and cleaning skills. At the Gospel Mission, the students learn janitorial skills. The majority of the students that complete the program get jobs. Some places that they get jobs at are the hospital, restaurant, grocery stores, and retail stores.
Once the students have had their opportunity to learn the different jobs within food service here at the college, then it is beneficial for them. They are able to go out and market themselves to the different food service employers and the Restaurant Association to let them know that they have worked in the front of the house, washing tables and greeting with the customers, and vice versa in the back of the house, how to do all the stock and inventory all the way to closing out at the end of the day, taking and mopping and doing all the trash and everything. So as a benefit for them as they apply within the restaurants, then that gives them the ability to let them know that they've been trained in those duties. As a contractor here at Sinclair, we have enjoyed tremendously the students coming in on a weekly basis, helping us with our day-to-day operations. And I think the benefit and the partnership that we have with the Dayton Public School Systems is a wonderful program, and we hope that it continues on so we can have these students be able to go out into the general population and get jobs.
Goodwill Easter Seals are proud partners with Dayton Public Schools in helping them enrich their lives for better futures. As a job developer, we assist the students with developing work-related skills for competitive employment within the community. We meet with them each Friday. In addition, we discuss and demonstrate potential job openings, get to know each person and what their interests are. We discuss and demonstrate potential job openings, help them research that particular position, that company, and see if it's a good match for each individual that we serve.
This transition program with Dayton Public Schools have given students with special needs the opportunity to achieve their transition goals by becoming gainfully employed in the community, and also it helps them achieve their independent living goals, which will make them successful throughout life.
I'm Landon Keaton of the Ponent CTC Media Arts program. I'm here with the student spotlight, Sanaa.
Sanaa Everett is a senior at Stivers School for the Arts with a remarkable gift for photography. She is the only student in the state of Ohio to receive the National Young Arts Award. Sanaa also demonstrates resilience, having overcome many obstacles throughout her high school career. Her teachers describe her as insightful, profound, and beyond her years. Sanaa also participates on the basketball team, manages a local pretzel shop, and has maintained an excellent grade point average. Overall, she's an exceptional student and person, and for these reasons, is perfect to recognize in our student spotlight.
I know you were in the National Young Arts competition. What was that experience like for you?
It was really fun and exciting to find out that I won. And it was a good process, especially like coming up with my series and writing my artist statement for it.
What was the piece of art that you used to actually win the competition? What was it exactly?
It was a series of pictures of my sister expressing like her raw emotional state.
What would you say to somebody that aspires to get into photography that don't necessarily have the funds or the resources to do that immediately?
Well, a photographer can start with anything. A photographer is really a set of mind. Like, it's not about what you have, it's what you make of what you have. I started off on my phone it was like an iPhone 6. It wasn't the best camera, but that's how it started off. And then eventually it developed into me using the camera. And the camera, I didn't even buy, it's provided by the school. So really, it's just what you make of your surroundings and not your surroundings themselves.
What do you like most about Stivers?
I think I just like the community. Like, it's a very tight-knit community and everyone's there for each other. So I like that about Stivers.
What are your most memorable moments of being here at Stivers?
Well, I would say my first Stivers Celebrates, because that's the biggest stage I have ever been on. And you know, with like 2,000 people looking at you, it was just like really cool to experience. And I was only a sophomore at the time, so that was really fun.
What would you say to a student who wants to go to Stivers?
I would say to try your hardest, because during auditions, they're not looking for the most perfect person in their magnet. They're just looking for someone who will try, and they're looking for someone who they can improve. I know my audition, it wasn't the best, so like, you just gotta work hard and show them that you have that work ethic in you.
This past weekend. That's amazing. So, you know, they're gonna be frustrated, but it's like it's every other wear. This is like it's hot. Yeah. That's awesome. So now we finally officially pulled day shift in on site. So Deja's a part of it as well. So like I can get you to run for one of the seats for school board in 2 years.
Yes, because she was thinking about it.
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah. And I thought she would do it this past year. She did not.
Okay. Let's get some stuff done, huh? Okay, I'm tired. How about you? Busy. Yeah, very busy.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order, well, not good evening, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order this January 22nd special meeting. Madam Treasurer, may we have a roll call, please?
President Smith,
Present.
Ms. Wick,
Present.
Dr. Goodwin,
Here.
Dr. Bailey,
Present.
Mr. Lacy,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Present.
7 present.
You can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, well, I'll kick it over to Dr. Lawrence to discuss the reason why we are here today and talk about some of the ideas and collaborative attempts that we are going to take to rectify some of the issues we've been having. Let me start with Dr. Lawrence.
Hey, thanks a lot, President Smith. We're here because we have several staff members who've not received supplemental checks, and we have staff members who've not had deductions taken out, and we're here to walk through why, talk about immediate steps, intermediate steps, and then long-term steps. So I would turn it over to HR and Treasury.
Board President Smith, other distinguished members of the board, Dr. Lawrence Hewitt, our treasurer. Thank you for allowing me with this opportunity to kind of discuss some of our issues in payroll and human resources. And actually, I don't believe do you have the presentation? I'm going to pause for a second just to make sure that you can follow along. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So the first issue has to deal with benefits. Essentially, deductions have not occurred due to significant software issues. We learned an outside consultant had to help complete the cycle for this past year's 2023, actually, deductions to be successful. Due to the significant patches we have in B+, currently, Benefits and Deductions has a 4-page process to upload benefits information into B+. With the additional step of having to go in and correct each employee's pay assignment. This is done manually with every employee. We were aware of this laborious process, but due to the significant issues that PowerSchool could not even assist with, we did not know that an external consultant had to come in and finish the process. It's been quite frustrating that, PowerSchool, a product that we've been utilizing for years and going to for support, lacks the ability to know how to support our system specifically. Again, just to summarize it, PowerSchool has received several calls from our HR department to assist in the file upload, the software issues, and we had to bring in a consultant to complete the process. The individual is Michael Sagert. He works with Connects HR. He's the consultant that we're working with. We're also working with other consultants to identify and isolate the software errors, preventing deductions and take corrective actions to ultimately prevent future problems. The individual that will kind of be spearheading this improvement will be Angela Hayes. Of course, I will be a part of the process as well, but it's in development, and we're seeking a permanent solution rather than another patch for Business Plus. Any questions so far?
So so it's not fixed yet. So when does information have to be in for the next payroll?
So this Friday.
When?
This Friday.
This coming Friday.
Yep.
For checks that are cut. February 2nd.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a meeting today. Angela Hayes met with the consultant. They did a few trial runs, and those trial runs were effective. It did work.
Okay.
So, and we're meeting again on Wednesday to make sure that the full run of the file is effective.
Okay. Thanks. That's all I have.
Dr. Goodwin?
If it's not effective, what's the plan?
So, the meeting on Wednesday is in place so that we can make sure that the file works. If it doesn't, we'll continue to work through Friday to make sure the problem is corrected. But as of now, it's looking like the file is uploading.
Okay, so will you guys have to manually do something if it does not upload at the final date?
Everything is done manually, even with the actual file.
What type of workforce is needed to do that in the event that option A is unsuccessful?
So Michael Sagert and Angela Hayes.
So
will
two
be
people.
responsible for that. Yep,
For every employee in the district we're just talking about
And-
benefits, correct?
correct. And prior to this, it was Cynthia Timmer. She did it with Michael Sagert as well.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So yeah, I'm confused. You said it's always manual, but you also use the term upload. Is there?
So yeah, there's and
is it uploaded or is it manual?
it's uploaded, but there are some manual steps that one has to
okay.
take.
There's 2 pages of steps
Yeah,
to go through.
4
to get it.
pages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or 4 pages.
Right.
Okay.
To create the file and upload the file.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Walker?
So how will you know come Friday if it was actually successful?
We'll know on Wednesday if it's
Okay.
successful.
So if it's not successful on Wednesday, then what's the backup plan?
To actually go in and do it manually.
But it's going to cause a delay in pay again for that same thing.
I mean, with that,
Go.
Hi, I'm Kelly Webb. I'm the chief of payroll. We will know Friday night. I will patch the payroll for all of the contract employees, anybody on stretch pay who opts for a 26 pay versus 20. Those will all be on what's called a pre-list. It's basically our preliminary check register. I can see a complete gross to net calculation and whether or not those benefits are coming out. So I will know that probably by about 3 p.m. on Friday. And at that point, if I see that they're not coming out, I'm calling an all-hands meeting for over the weekend that we can start entering everything manually.
I'll let you.
How many people are, all hands, how many people is that will come in for the weekend?
It would be my staff, so I have 3 available people, and then whoever Dr. Jones has on his that can.
So 3 from payroll, how many from HR?
it would be 3 to 4.
So possibly 7 total.
Correct.
To guarantee that next Friday, so this one part of it, that the benefits are taken out, not only so employees don't have to incur additional costs, but the Board of Education also doesn't have to incur an additional cost for benefits not coming out. That's the guarantee you guys are giving us with option A or B, which may occur. Is that correct?
That's where we are, yes.
Mr. Walker?
She actually.
All right.
And then who are the consultants thank you. Who are the consultants under the last bullet point that you're working with to identify and isolate the software error?
So, Chandra, I can't remember Chandra's last name. She's also working, Ms. Atkins. She also works with Connects HR. It'll be Michael Sagert. And I've also reached out to 2 previous employees who actually did this work recently, who are willing to come in and help and assist.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sorry.
No, you good. No, it's you. No.
Okay, so the system that has the 3 pages, 4 pages of of manual to get it to work. Give me the name of that system again. Is that
Business Plus.
Business Plus? Okay, do we have like a maintenance agreement with anybody?
We do have an agreement with that organization, Power Schools.
With
is the
Power
organization.
Schools? And
Yes.
Power Schools isn't really responding well to us or something, even though are we like paying them regularly?
Yes. They've been paid. They are the organization that.
Good afternoon. So Power Schools owns Business Plus and eSchool Plus, and that's who we actually contract with for both of these programs. And we have made such significant changes to both eSchool Plus and Business Plus, which is part of the reason why when we try and upload a file, it's not talking. And Power School can't even tell us why it's not talking, because there have been so many changes made to the system, the Business Plus side of the system, that they can't get the fields to line up.
Okay. But we do pay them.
We pay them for the system annually, and they have tickets open.
Okay.
To try and get the issue resolved.
All right.
However, because Power School doesn't know all the changes that we've made to our own system, therein lies part of our problem.
Okay.
So, okay, looking at this one for next week, what is where are we at with the employees who have had this happen long-term so far and not just a one-time thing? Because some employees did reach out that they were being charged and they opted out, or they opted out and still got charged even more than what they opted for.
So it's been a month since that issue came up.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's part of the fix, like the flex opt-out, FSA, HSA.
So the ones who opted out but were still charged were already reimbursed?
So I've talked to several employees that this has happened to. So it looks like what happened was that at the end of the year, that people who applied for new benefits and new benefit elections online, those were not elected. That is when you actually have the choice to say, end my VOYA. I don't need this voluntary life. I don't need this anymore. Those benefits are still continuing for some, not all. So they haven't been, so we will owe these employees who have opted out of some of those voluntary. Now, the statutory will remain the same, but for anybody that has elected out of a voluntary benefit, we will definitely owe those employees. I'm working with the treasurer to get that list. Actually, the treasurer is one that this did affect. She has one of 3 voluntary benefits right now coming out of her check. So we are going to work with all the employees, because I've gotten several emails, from SROs, DSS, saying that, hey, I didn't even want this benefit anymore. So we will have to refund all of those. So there's a few issues that are happening simultaneously. So we have that where the deductions are still coming out that had not been elected under the new elections. Then we also have the $150 flex opt-out payment. So if anybody in the district does not elect to have medical insurance, we pay that employee $150 per quarter. And it should always happen on the 3rd month of the quarter, the first payroll. Well, December's was missed. So that first payroll in December, no one received that $150. We need to get that payment out to them immediately. That has to happen on February 2nd as well. So I've talked to Dr. Lawrence about some of these major things that need to happen. So along with the new elections, we have to get the $150 out. We also have to get out the $750 or $1,500 employer contribution to the HSA. Now, I funded the HSA's accounts for everyone in the beginning, like at the end of December. It was right before Christmas. I sent the money to them. We need that to show up on everyone's paycheck so that they also know that, yes, your $750 or your $1,500 has been funded with FlexBank, so you can start and make payments to your providers. So all three of those need to happen simultaneously for the February 2nd paycheck.
Mr. Bailey, go ahead. Finish that.
Is there an estimate of the dollar amount that's owed
For which piece?
for the flex?
For the flex, we generally have about $45,000 with the flex that is paid out to employees.
Okay.
Each quarter.
Has any of the 45,000 or?
Zero.
Okay.
Zero.
Out of the last 2 quarters, because is it third quarter already?
We've had fourth quarter. Now, we go on a calendar year
Okay.
for those payments just because it's W-2 related.
Gotcha.
So fourth quarter has not been paid. First quarter will be approaching in March. It will be the first payroll in March that they're actually due another 150. So we've got to catch up then from December's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Bailey and then Dr. Goodwin.
She kind of answered a couple of my questions, but I want to go back to, I can't think of her name right now. Yeah, you were saying that those that manage the system and help with the system did not get the changes that you all made to the system? Am I correct in hearing that?
So over time, as a district, we've requested PowerSchool to make changes to our Business Plus and our eSchool Plus system. In accountability, we've tracked our eSchool Plus changes, and I don't know if the Business Plus changes have been tracked in the same manner. PowerSchool does manage, it is a proprietary software, and so they do actually make those changes for us at our request. However, when the person who is at the help desk does not know all those changes that have been made, they continue to escalate our tickets until they can find someone who might be able to help us because of the changes that we've had made in the system.
So how are you guys going to get that switched up so that doesn't happen again?
That's a great question. We are working, from my department, we're working on a couple of different solutions. My department's looking at different options because when things become this cumbersome, undoing them is more cumbersome because you can't go back and start from scratch, or that is very challenging to do. So from my perspective, my department is actually looking at, okay, what can we do next, and looking forward.
So and by what I'm understanding, since I'm new, it seems like this is kind of is a reoccurring situation. So my question then is this because of the system? Is it because of the lack of training and it's human error, or is it both?
Yeah, you're spot on. It's both. The system is very cumbersome and difficult to navigate. And when you have institutional knowledge that knew how to avert the pitfalls, avoid some of those issues because they've dealt with them before, some key people have gone. And, the HR team is really new.
Okay, so then my question now is to kind of resolve this a little quicker, because I know we've talked about a new system and everything. I don't have no clue right now how much that would be, but would it be better to have somebody come in to train them on the system and even train them in how to be better at HR, or?
I agree. So I reached out to PowerSchool and I said, and I talked to Dr. Lawrence and Treasurer Abraha about this. And I said, let's deal with the devil that we have right in front of us right now. So let's get some training. We're going to do an HR boot camp for the entire HR department. I'm going to sit in on that as well, because maybe I can be a backup and help out in these types of situations. So PowerSchool responded. I just sent you guys an email. They have availability this week. I say that's an opportunity that we jump on right now because a lot of this is training. So I've been here for 5 years. I just celebrated my 5 year in October. This is the first time that I've seen this type of scenario happen with benefits. So this is a good learning opportunity for everyone. There's it's tough whenever you have personnel changes, and we've had a great deal. So we're going to deal with this the best that we can. But I think the training with Power School, training on, we had some of these issues with the coaches where people weren't aware that, if you have an educator license and maybe you're not necessarily teaching right now, but you are a coach and you are owed a coach payment, STRS still has to be withheld. Generally, if you don't, then STRS would be withheld. So some of these issues are training, and I can help the HR department with that piece just because of my legacy knowledge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Bailey, I just want to say the scale of it is different. Last year when I was a business manager and we, in transportation, there were transportation workers who didn't get a check at all because we took out benefits, all their benefits at the end of the year because of around the spouse piece. And so the scale of this is larger, but it's been happening.
And also want to address the latter portion of the question in terms of bringing someone in to help. Not only will we be working with Power School in terms of rendering professional development, however, we're also going to put out requests for qualifications. As you know, 2 weeks ago, we worked with Socius Solutions, Dr. Rosalind Cohen. And we identified some of those skill gaps, learning gaps. We did a deep dive in culture, but of course culture takes some time to change. But we're looking at it from both angles, like the technical aspect of the job and the cultural aspect as well.
You also have an RFI out, right? You're going to be working on RFI as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know, this might be crazy for me to ask, but I don't know how long your people have been in HR, but I really like to know how motivated they are in learning, because a lot of times when people have been doing something for a while, they don't want to change. And you'll bring trainers in, and they'll still want to do the same thing because that's just what they're used to doing. I want to know how motivated people in HR are. I mean, you're playing with people's money, and I don't want anybody playing with mine. And you probably don't want anybody playing with yours. And I hate to use the word play, because it's not playing, it's just sometimes it's lack of skill or whatever. But are they really motivated to get this job done and to learn something new? And if they're not, then what are you going to do?
If individuals are not motivated, it often boils down to skill and will. If we find that they lack the will to get better, we'll help them out. We have some skill gaps, lack of software knowledge, but I do believe that the team is dedicated and they're very open to learning new processes, procedures. They do want to do a really good job. But again, there are some knowledge gaps.
Dr. Goodwine, and then Ms. Wick.
Thank you. With just first one is a request. Can I get the contract term for the payroll / HR portion of Business Plus? And did you say it was 2 that you're using, or is it just Business Plus that does this? At Power School? And
Power School is business.
okay, can I get the contract term? That's A. Can I also get the cost that we're paying for this program, specifically for this feature of it? Because I know you guys use Power School for an array of things. That's B. My question for you guys, as Board Member Bailey started on, just really kind of, I hear that it is a split between a failure in software and a failure in knowledge of people. My question is, what are the true consequences that occurs if this continues to be an ongoing issue? Because, again, our last board meeting, we covered the cost of it. We covered the cost of to the tune of $400,000, but that didn't change anything. We're still here again. We haven't gotten to our second issue yet of individuals not being paid their checks, which is, I know when we get to that slide, that's a whole nother conversation for us to go into. But it just keeps seeing, I'm not seeing where is the the consequence for not, with the part that is not a technology gap. What is that consequence that's occurring? Because if there is no consequence, there is no incentive to get better either. And it is unacceptable to continue to tell people that we'll get you on the next check, or you just owe us, or we'll pay you back later. Because again, people count their coins, every cent. People have this allocated of what they were utilizing those things for. And it just, again, I've set up here now, I think this has been ongoing for a couple months of array of issues when it comes to payment or something financial that goes to our staff here. And I'm not seeing any change on our side as a personnel. I mean, I've just started hearing the software pieces. So I'm asking, what are the consequences for not getting this right?
The consequences can vary. Dr. Lawrence is adamant about fixing the problem. I know that Treasurer Abraha is as well. And essentially, when an employee doesn't get the job done, they have to go. They have to leave. And I internalized this so much. This weekend, I shared with Dr. Lawrence. I do feel like this is my problem. I own it. And if it came down to it, if I had to step down, I would. But I do believe that we can fix this. Now, having said that, this is a good segue into supplementals. That was the next issue. In essence, supplemental payouts were not paid in a timely manner. Our immediate actions to address the thousands of supplementals processed each year. First, we'll refine our document audit process for athletics and supplementals to determine that all required employee information is present. On this last supplemental run, we did find employees that perhaps did not bring in a voided check, or it lacked a signature on a document. We have to do a better job of vetting that information. And so we're going to put in a process where we triple check, triple audit before we send information over to payroll, just to make sure it is perfect and pristine. I know that they operate on the information that HR sends them. And so we're putting in place another layer of audits. We meet weekly, the payroll team and the HR team. And so during that meeting, a standing agenda item will be to discuss supplementals. We're going to do the same thing with athletics. They have a process that's a little bit different. They have an onboarding process themselves. We're actually talking about transferring some of those processes and procedures over to HR.
All right. Couple things too on my end. First, when we talk about this kind of conversation between Power School, between the entities that we use through that, do we at the district have like a direct representative, human person that we deal with who is our representative from Business Plus?
I do. I work with Power School just about daily. So I have their cell phone numbers, their addresses, their email addresses. I have an ability to reach out to everyone. When there have been, even more traumatic events, like payroll just quits in the middle of processing. Well, we have such a tight processing time frame. If you're on a field trip and you're working up until Friday at midnight of going into that pay week, I'm starting to pay you for that on Monday. So there's really no turnaround time at all. Nothing can go wrong. And I think a lot of these issues have been because of that really tight processing time frame too, because no one has a chance to get their breath. But in the same note, it's allowed me the ability to build that relationship with Power School, because they even know we're on one of the tightest timeframes in the state of Ohio for processing. Okay. So they're very willing to communicate, especially in an emergency.
Okay, and then with that whoever that person is that you guys have that direct line of connection with, is there, outside of when things are happening, do you guys have like a monthly, quarterly, to sit down with them to discuss where things are, where you need them to be? How does that process look like?
Yeah, we actually don't in Treasury. I'm not sure if HR or if, Mindy, you guys don't. No, so we don't have anything scheduled on a recurring basis like that, but because we talk to them so much, we talk about some of our long-term goals, and really our weekly and daily interactions handles those. So maybe we should, that's something that we can actually consider.
Yeah, that was my thought of understanding that, you know, it's one thing in my mind to be dealing with someone when we're in crisis mode.
Right.
When we're in, okay, we need you to help us get through this. But then I think outside of that, I would suggest that it may be useful to be able to have that, especially when you can get somebody who's like owns the account for us. And say, hey, okay, this is where we are. If it's maybe if it does need to start out being a monthly thing and then move to a quarterly, to understand, hey, this is where we are. These are some of the things, just like Ms. Clark talked about, the changes that we have made. I think making sure on our end that we cover and track those changes, because that is the thing, you know, unknotting something gets so hard that sometimes you just cut the string.
Right.
And right now you can't deal with a lot of that, and understanding that we're dealing with people.
Right.
And then also on the other side, outside of that, so I do think that would be good, is to set that relationship up outside of crisis management, but just relationship building and saying, okay, this is where we are, this is where we need to get. Also, making sure that even our staff may not know everything in the weeds, but giving them a sense of what's going on. A sense of, because I think that's also where the board gets contacted, is when people are just confused, or someone says, hey, I thought this was gonna happen, it hasn't happened. You know, getting that kind of conversation, which is the flip side of where we are here. It's customer service, not only to our families that bring their children here, but making sure we're providing that service to our staff who provide that service to our children, is making sure that they know, just making sure that they know if something's happening. Because I think that's where you allow things to creep in. You know, if I'm a staff member and I'm going through issues, but then also I look on the news today and then I see a report that the state Board of Education says that because of different things in Columbus, they might not be able to make payroll by this summer. And you start thinking, well, what's going on across the board here? Am I going to now lose this? Am I going to? So I think us as a district could do a better job of just communicating. And I think that's just something, like, it's not something new. I think that's just something across the board, and it's been that way for a long time, just being able to communicate. Because then it gets to the board, and we aren't employees here. So what happens is, you know, someone can come to me, I then have to go to you all anyway.
Right.
And so being able to have that conversation there, because that's usually what I do. If somebody reaches out, I'm following back through that chain anyway. So I appreciate that.
Agreed. And that's perfect. And I will set up a monthly meeting with Power School for Dr. Jones and I, to meet with them just about various issues and have it set up as a recurring meeting, and then we can deal with the little stuff, you know, on the daily and weekly basis.
Okay, Dr. Goodwin.
Thank you for that. I mean, I had a couple more on the other one, but now we're on supplemental. We're still today with people who haven't been paid. So, I mean, there's some people sitting in the room today who haven't been paid.
Right.
What is the holdup of getting these people the compensation for the work that they've done?
Yeah, so I just walked across the street with a swimming coach who has yet to be paid. When he was actually one of the individuals that fell into that. He's got an educator license, and he was requested to have filled out STRS forms, which is incorrect. He will be in STRS. So when we don't have the correct paperwork, everything comes to a screeching halt, so that we can keep our audit as clean as it has been. So we can't really pay those employees. So I know that HR is working endlessly to try to get the correct paperwork for, from my last count, it was 13 individuals, is that correct? 13 checks that we should still have to cut for tomorrow, and they are finalizing that paperwork as we speak.
I hear you on tomorrow, but why can't they be paid today? Because they were supposed to be paid Friday.
Yeah, I think that they're having some trouble reaching out and finding everyone that they need paperwork from.
Well, let's go with the one you talked to, because I talked to
Yes.
the same individual.
Yeah.
Is all the paperwork completed on that individual?
It is now, yes.
Other individuals who have that, can they be paid today?
Anyone that has paperwork, yet we could cut checks today.
Do you need us to take some action as a board to get those individuals who are again, in our supplemental roles. So that means that they're taking time away from another position to
Right.
be here to get paid for an additional position they do for us. Is there some action you need us to do as a board to get those individuals paid
Not at all.
today?
No, if you've boarded them and they have all of the retirement paperwork and everything that we need, if the treasurer agrees, then I'd be more than happy to cut checks today.
Let me ask the treasurer, can those people be paid today?
If she audited it, yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So that's that one. I have one more question, and then I'll kick it to you. I see you over there.
Appreciate
going,
it.
Nana Harmon.
You know.
The positions, okay, there's the split between Treasury and HR,
There is.
right? And on the benefits, and is it, what are the HR positions called that do some aspect of payroll?
HRPY. They basically are crossover, kind of like hybrid positions. And the reason for the rest of the board that we have that split is to have a separation of duties. So it really ensures that I won't be entering a family member with a pay assignment that no one else ever knows about. So I can't enter new employees. So it's a great, it was suggested also by the Auditor of State. And we've done a great job with separating those duties so that we are out of the entering piece of it, and all we're doing is auditing. So it flows through Treasury, and then whatever we have left over is what gets processed.
I hear you say that it's been great, but it's not been great for us over the last, 12 months. We've had a lot of issues. Does it still make, or can we revisit, does that still make sense for us? For you guys to be separate like that?
To separate it?
And not it all be under, those positions still be in Treasury?
We can discuss that with the state auditor.
Yeah.
I believe, yeah. When
Segregation.
Go ahead.
Segregation of duty is crucial.
Right.
It has to be separated because payroll shouldn't put someone and pay them.
No, I agree. It's still, the
Right.
positions are separate, because it's a whole nother person that does that, correct?
There are, it's actually a two-person position, and we have one person that is entering those pay assignments
So
now.
there are two people on HR side who does that, and on your side, how many audit?
Zero. We don't enter.
No, not
pays.
enter, audit.
Oh, audit. We've got 4.
So yeah, my request more so is to look at, does it make sense to move the 2 positions under Treasury, not their job under the 4 people doing it? But if you're, like, right now, we have a HR department that is super new, and it's gonna take them time to grow. We have a very experienced Treasury department because your turnover isn't as high. Should those individuals who are doing that front part just be with you guys, is more of my question.
Can I speak?
Go ahead.
We had that position before. We had a problem like 3-4 years ago, way before. And what I did was I asked the superintendent and the board if I can take it to my office. And I had 2 people. But for some reason, after we worked, we corrected it, and it went back to the superintendent. It was approved by the board with several departments taking from the treasury. So
does it make sense now for not you to lose the positions, but for the positions to be, I mean, you are responsible for all finances of the district.
Yes.
Right now, period, and even that level of, I mean, it seems like a lot is going on. I don't know if they will do better with your team or not, but that's really the question out there.
Well, I think one of the things we want to do is mitigate risk in every sense of the word, from what we are doing between HR and Treasury. We've had really good audits. Is that the reason? Because we separated the positions? You know, when I joined DPS, that was one of the things that did move back to HR. So I think it matters. I think once we get this training, things will get going well again. So they were running like a finely oiled machine for quite some time. But anytime we have turnover, and we've talked about this, that we do run into some roadblocks.
But was that under this treasurer when the 2 were together?
Yes, it was. Yes.
And the audit that year, you said was what? You said you want to mitigate risk, so I'm just trying to see what the difference was on year. Was that what year were you the treasurer?
We had some findings for recovery.
Since 17.
And I believe they were from maybe some teacher assignments.
Yeah.
That year.
Okay. So I'm just asking that, again, we look into this one because
yeah,
I would rather us again, not be here at a special meeting trying to
Right.
get individuals paid.
Right. Yeah, it's
than-
definitely
than
worth
thinking about
exploring
things that
again.
happened in the past.
Right.
So, I'm trying to follow. So, the suggestion would be to pull them from HR to put them back under the treasurer.
That's correct. Not lose the positions,
But
but lose
just-
the two positions that they stated are doing that one, because the treasurer is already over all of our finances.
So under HR, are they doing other duties as well? Or just that?
No, basically, those positions are using the board documents as their database of record. So as soon as board docs are approved, they use those, they turn them into EIFs, and then they actually enter those pay assignments into the system. And that's what's separated from the treasurer's office. We're reliant on those entries being correct so that they can flow through to Treasury and we can pay them. So that's the position that you're talking about, moving into payroll.
You mean,
So
I wouldn't go there.
I just want to be clear. So it would be a lot maybe less stressful if they were underneath the treasurers and was already hand in hand there working with the 4 that you have?
Right, yes.
Okay. So I'm fine with it.
I mean, it just seems to make sense that if this is our pain point right now, you guys are already doing the second layer of it, that if you were, or someone on the treasury team is monitoring, helping that point of it, maybe we won't get to this point. And it seems to take some stress off of HR.
So we would, as a board, just basically reorganize the organizational chart to move those 2 roles underneath.
Amend it.
Yes, you knew what I was talking about. Okay, so I would just ask the superintendent and treasurer if that works for them. And I'm fine with making the vote for it, if that helps the problem. But I do want to come back to my other questions too.
can we discuss it first before you vote it? Because this happened before and taken from me. Again, I don't want another mess up.
Yeah, I get it. And,
Yes.
And it'll be
So
hard
I
to
need
give
to
it to you and take it
discuss
back again.
first how it should come, who is going to roll over treasury and staff. I cannot take it just from this meeting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to have a
No,
conversation.
it happened already.
Yeah.
And it was taken when it was working.
Can you guys, in addition to talking about that one, I'm also going to ask that you talk about benefits as well? Because again, it just seems like that should be with Treasury. So those 3 positions, or I don't know how many people are in benefits, but.
Let's discuss it.
Yeah, I'm
first.
asking
Yeah,
you guys to go discuss it. So
we'll
by the time we
discuss
come
it
back in
and-
February.
Yes.
Like, you have some action here, because I don't want HR to feel so strained so much. And the Treasury team, it just seems to be a better fit based on what you do and your experience level of what you're already doing and the tenure of the individuals over there. So the request is that the 2 HR payroll positions and the benefits position, a discussion on how that could fit into Treasury is the request.
Yeah.
Board, are you guys, anybody against that or anything like that? Are you guys
I'm
anything
for
to
it.
add on it?
I just think, I would say just have them have the discussion about all of the functions of those things, because it's a fluid thing. If we're making a decision about based on what one department has, that department could flip and very well be faced with a different thing, because at one time you had an HR department that had more experience, you had a treasury department that was new. I don't want to do something where then another board then comes in, because that is what the treasurer is saying, is that people made decisions for their departments without saying, okay, what fits for your department? It's the board saying, this is what we think should fit. So I think they should have not just even those positions, just what it looks like as a whole. And what does that whole process look like? Because it's not something new that we were seeing. I think it's different iterations of different problems, which goes from the systems part of the issues, the conversations we've had, the conversations that were around before I was here about how do we move some of these things. And it's easy for the board to say, I don't want a quick fix. So I definitely think we need to fix it, but I think a quick fix kind of solves this here. But then you're looking at what if it happens down the road? What if this happens? I do think having that conversation, like Mr. Lacy said, with what does it look like on the audit side of things, because this is something we've been in these spaces numerous times before you were here, before Dr. Jones was here. So I think it would be prudent, especially for the treasurer who's been here, I think the longest out of all of our administrators, well, and our business manager as well, to see how does this all come together. But I think if you guys are together, I think we should have some recommendations by next month.
Yes, we will.
Okay. My other question: what's the time frame that employees or coaches are given to turn in documents in? Do they start working without the documents in?
They're not supposed to start working before they've been board ratified. And so part of the onboarding process, getting all paperwork in, they get submitted to the agenda to get board approved, and then they can begin work.
So everything is already submitted before they're board approved?
In theory.
You know
Board
what?
Walker, that's
we
in,
found
that's in
some.
theory.
We
It
found
doesn't.
gaps. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's in theory. Actually, the board changed the policy so that so that you could not start working because that was an issue that's been an ongoing issue during my tenure. Folks were working without all of their paperwork in, and they were getting paid or they were in buildings and sometimes hadn't been boarded, and so we had an issue.
Okay.
And then, you know, when you think about athletics has some of their own processes and procedures. We're going to be meeting every week with athletics to streamline some of those processes because they have onboarding, and then they have to come to HR and do some onboarding.
So
in my mind, those two processes will coexist.
Yeah, so I would ask Ms. Powell, put you on the spot, is there a way for the two to figure out a way where it's one process with athletics and HR instead of the two process to get rid of some of the issues that comes from, because it seemed like the supplemental has come up constantly. Didn't see Ms. Hayes back there.
Angela Hayes. Just left a meeting actually with athletics, so we can collaborate a lot better with that process flow. So currently right now, a coach is given a letter of intent. They got 3 things they have to complete on the athletic side: pupil activity,
Concussion.
additional, and there's another one. So until they complete that, we won't get documentation on a coach hiring form, and that's what triggers us to do our side as far as the add them to the board agenda for approval, do our pay assignments, so on and so forth. So we are collaborating. We'll start meeting weekly, every Thursday at 2, so we can get a better process flow.
Okay. And with that process, how, I guess, when do you find out if they're a teacher and have a different license or not in the middle of that process, instead of like finding out at the end when their check is supposed to be cut or something like that?
So yeah, that's part of the onboarding paperwork. We do, there was a hiccup that we identified with the licensures, background, how's that communicated, or what have you. So Dr. Rammer will be included in that process. She now does the licensures to verify, because she has to sign the pupil activity to make sure that they are good to go for the coaches. So now she'll be included in that tracker process to make sure, one, they have the licensures, the pupil activity, and the background. Then we can do our part as far as HR.
Okay. And then last question for me, how many consultants are being paid for HR work?
Right now, it's just one.
And that's the Michael?
Michael Sagert is, he was first brought on the Treasury side, and we put together an agenda item to have him do some work with us as well.
So, and then you know how long the contract is now with him?
We haven't. The HR contract is just a temporary one. Michael Sagert with Connects HR, they actually rolled out our entire time clock system, our biometric system. So he got that going, boy, nutrition services started more than 5 years ago. And I was here when he helped roll out with transportation and then the remaining portions of the district. So he's been working with the district for quite some time. This HR work is just temporary work, a one-time fix, so to speak.
And then with that, so this individual is the one that helped create the data input to fix the issue. Is there any talks of doing him leading a training with staff for that and what that looks like ongoing?
Yes, and to also, we discussed several patches within Business Plus before. We want a permanent fix. We want that to be a deliverable from him, if at all possible. If he's fixing it or helping to fix it throughout the years that he's been, working with DPS, it should be something that could be permanent.
All right, couple things. Did you want to go first, Dr. Gowon?
I got
I
a
had
quick one.
All right.
Okay. Oh, no, you had
Did I
Wick.
skip you, Miss Wick?
Yeah.
Yeah, Miss
Wow.
Wick, y'all skipped Miss Wick, man. Y'all kept going back and forth. I blame Walker and Goodwine. They was playing badminton and they skipped you.
Thank you. Thanks for this information. I'm kind of reminded in this conversation when we did our construction at Ludlow too, that it was intentionally that HR and Treasury were together because of the importance of communication. And I can't stress enough how pleased I am to see you coming together to work collaboratively, because I do believe that the solutions lie in that collaboration. I recognize we have a lot of broken systems around and new people, but really we have to continue to communicate and collaborate, because that's really, in those relational pieces, is where we're going to really make way in the work. You said something about, with regard to our Treasury and, what you're looking to do is mitigate risk, because we want good audits, and I certainly appreciate our audits. I, value that. It's a very important part of the work, but I never want to mitigate risk at the responsibility of getting our staff paid and doing the right work. And while, our Treasury Department is protected on one end because we can only pay based on the information that we're getting, when you're getting right and wrong information. And so the best part of today is seeing you come to the table to help our HR department make sure that they're getting the right information to you in a timely manner, in the right way, to include athletics and all of the supplemental contracts so that we can get our people paid on time. So kudos to you for really coming together. I appreciate all of that effort, and thank you.
And part of what you just shared, we're also going to come together to work out create a year-long calendar of deadlines, have something in black and white that we place in our Google calendars for our HRPY staff. We also have like a roadmap, HR roadmap, that we'll be adding a lot of these tasks to. That roadmap is basically the action we're going to take, who's going to own it, and the progress made towards achieving that action item.
And I also like to add on to that, I know that whether it's the supplemental contracts that come through athletics or any other supplemental contracts, teacher positions in buildings, those sorts of things, that the responsibility a lot of time for that reporting factor lies on those building people too. So that for our team out there that are watching, that are affected by these things, if they have solutions, recommendations to help make their buildings more efficient, help make the process more efficient, to please reach out to Dr. Marvin Jones.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We've also streamlined that supplemental request extra duty process. Right now, it's kind of everywhere on different spreadsheets. We're going to have one unified document so that we can track supplementals better.
And which, again, I'm going to piggyback on, I've sat on this board for 6 years now, and we have for a long time, I've heard chatter about problems with Power School, chatter about problems with Business Plus. And I do feel like you have a board that recognizes that we have an internal system that has been band-aided for a long time, and that we're going to be looking for solutions outside of antiquated systems and processes that no longer fit our organization. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Dr. Goodwine, then I have a couple.
Okay, on the paperwork piece of it, because I've also received some complaints about people having to repeatedly turn in information. Are you guys still doing a manual process of paperwork?
So paperwork is done manually. We use Google Docs. I think part of the issue that you're referring to is, so we had a couple of employees that were board approved for supplemental, let's say June 23rd, right? And so they did all of their onboarding paperwork, they were board approved, but then the fiscal year changed, right? And so they had to do the paperwork over again.
So walk me through, why did they have to do it over? Is this a yearly process you have to submit onboarding documents?
I can help a little bit with this. So at a certain time, if they're not a currently paid employee, people are terminated from SERS and from STRS as well, and it would require a new membership form. So we have to get those retirement. Basically, our SERS and STRS takes place of Social Security. So we treat those forms just like SSA forms, and if they are terminated from one of the retirement plans, they do then become a new hire with a new enrollment that's needed.
Hold on one
And they have the option to actually cash out, you know, if you're.
One
you're
second. Dr. Jones, can you step over to the left just a little bit? I just want you to block the light for me. No, my left. My left. Just a little bit more to the right, a little bit to the left. Right there. Please.
So sometimes we do have employees, they actually cash out their SERS or STRS. So we do have to do new enrollment forms then in those cases.
Is the so onboard, I'm just trying to understand, the onboarding part here, are you just having to redo that form? Or are you making them go through the entire, like, fresh off the street new hire?
We do the direct deposit as well, so you'd be surprised at the amount of direct deposits that can change within just a matter of months, and people don't even realize, oh, I had signed up, you know, with KeyBank, and now I'm with Fifth Third. So we do require new forms as well for everything, just to verify, are we placing your money in the correct account? Because we don't want to get it lost. You'd be amazed at how quickly banks seem to reuse those account numbers. So we want to make sure everything is current, because my goal is to have everyone on direct deposit, because I think it's much better than just handing them a live check. Let me get your money in as soon as I possibly can, which is overnight, and I'll get it into your bank account.
I get that. My question more so is, how are you guys, because I'm getting complaints that people are giving you the same documents over and over again. So I'm wondering, on your side, how are you protecting that chain of custody with when they give you their information to you putting it in the system versus asking them to come back and give it to us again?
We should never ask anybody for the same paperwork twice. I can say in my experience today with the gentleman that is a swimming coach, he had only filled out SERS paperwork and we needed the STRS paperwork. So while it looked similar, it is different.
All right, I'm gonna get some names for you, and I'm gonna shoot them your way.
That sounds good.
Who's saying that?
I think with that and with a few other things, in the spirit of the conversation of trying to get away from making quick fixes to making permanent solutions, I think there's a couple of people and groups that could help us in these. Even like when we talk about those that have their teaching license, I think bringing in our teachers union on that piece. You know, understanding that our president of the teachers union is a former coach. So he's gone through not only understanding those pieces, but being a coach and understanding that to help with that. You know, letting them know, hey, this is what it looks like for those who have their teacher's license. If the athletics or HR, treasury has to put together a one-pager that DEA can then give to their members or give to those that say, hey, if you're a teacher, if you have your teaching license, these are the steps you need to make sure you're doing on this end. I also think that understanding their bigger volume periods of hiring on the coaching side, understanding that, you know, even if we're meeting with athletics, understanding it might be a time of the year where we have to really spend a lot of time there, because there's times a lot of coaches are coming on, you know, in this period where we're trying to make sure we have our coaches for the fall. This is the time we're trying to make sure we have those lined up. You know, during the summer, making sure that we have those winter people lined up. I think even if we're coming together doing an information session for those who want to get involved in coaching, because I think that's one of the things that could deter someone from wanting to coach and give back to our district, because, you know, our coaches aren't coming here coaching because they feel like they're going to become millionaires coaching. They're coming here because they want to help and give back to the children of our district. So any little thing can deter somebody from wanting to come in. Having those kind of informational sessions to sit down the same way we have parent sessions, the same way we have those coach meetings, you know, informationals for prospective coaches. The conversation we just had around the newness of HR staff. We have a plethora of people coming in coaching that are new coaches. Not only are they new coaches, but we're bringing in coaches to new sports that we haven't onboarded before as well. So I think connecting with those pieces, getting with a Mr. Mahoney and his group and saying, hey, DEA, what does it look like for us to talk to your membership about the steps it takes to coach? What does it look like getting new coaches trained up on what it looks like? What does it look like on having a whole rollout? The same way we had to look at enrollment to make sure it's a one-stop shop for parents to come enroll. How do we make it so that if somebody comes down, gets a supplemental, they don't walk out the door with any misunderstanding of what they have to do? Making sure that all those things are put together from all of these pieces. You know, even if it's something in athletics, if they're meeting somebody, hey, if you have an interest in coaching, this is what it looks like. This is the process. This is what you're going to need. These are the certifications you're going to have. If you have anything in your background, because that's what we have. We have a lot of tenured coaches, and we have a lot of people who this is their very first time coaching. You have some that have come over from charters and other people that have different kind of standards, so they're used to going through a different process. So I think even just making sure we're educating people on that piece then helps them to understand, because I don't want them to sit there and say they had a bad experience coming to us because they couldn't get paid for coming and helping us do something for our kids. So I definitely think if that's something that Ms. Hayes, if you all can work with, I think that'll be a good thing to kind of help us create those long-term solutions so that we have those pieces, knowing that we have times that we're trying to onboard coaches for six high schools, our middle schools, and now we're doing supplemental pieces in elementary to let people know this is what it looks like, and these are going to be the high volume periods, so we have to be all hands on deck then.
Thank you for that suggestion. We're also going to plug that information into our bi-monthly newsletter in terms of how to become a coach, what's necessary, and then just the onboarding process from an employee standpoint, period. You know, so thank you.
Anything else? We'll go down here. Mr. Walker?
And then
we'll go back over here.
Okay, so the tight time frame that you referenced, what does that look like, and why is it a tight time frame? Yeah, for payroll, sorry.
So, in general, even in corporations, there's about a 2-week lag period of the last day that you worked until you receive that paycheck. I've never worked anywhere where it has been less than 2 weeks in my career. But at Dayton Public, and one thing that Dr. Lawrence and Treasurer Abraha and I have discussed on several occasions, has been that really tight time frame where, you know, if we have a bus driver who's out on a field trip and comes back on a Friday night, if he or she clocks out 11:59 p.m. or earlier, that payroll is being processed as of Monday. So it requires all of the bus driver, all of the managers, the supervisors, to turn around, look at the time clock, go and see where their trip tickets, enter all of the information. The route times, have to be checked. So it's a really super tight time frame. It is hard on our managers and supervisors across the district to get all of those approvals done for all of our hourly staff. So I feel for them because, we have to have all of that data approved. Then by Monday at noon, when we start pulling it to export it from the time clock system, the biometric system, to import into Business Plus / Power School. So it's really hard on them. And we've looked at a couple of ways that we can delay that. Most of them got rejected by our bargaining units. I believe that was last year. And Treasurer Abraha can speak to that a little bit better. But the only way to do it would be to go on a 1-week arrearage, but then you're going another week where people aren't getting paid. So it's a difficult, argument to navigate because we really don't know the best answers. We've gotten some ideas, but, we've created this, and it's been like this for years from what I understand. So this isn't a new change, but when I got here, I said, I've never heard of such something, in such a short amount of time that has to be processed. It's tough on everybody.
Board member Reiner asked me to reach out to Dan Shaw, and he sent me a document that I attached and sent to you all last night that talks about the tight time frame in the Ridge and what has to happen, but it just hasn't happened.
Yeah. I'll say that all of our consultants that have looked at our schedule, they're amazed that we're able to even pull it off on a biweekly basis. It's tough.
So, I guess I'm trying to figure out what has been some of the suggestions to fix it without causing a delay, or is the delay is the only way to fix it?
Usually, the delay is the fix. Yeah.
So, is it better to do it over the summer?
I believe that was one of the original plans, but that still was not acceptable by many of the bargaining units. It's a week away, yeah. At least just to buy us even a week in between.
And I think this is where we can go back to the previous consultants that we had and talk with them. I think that they would be better to communicate what some of the fixes were and some of the suggestions that they had in front of the board in terms of making everything run more smoothly, giving the department more time to process everything and to fix the issues before they hit the deadlines. So
anything that would lead to 100% accuracy in payment is really what we would want. And if that time would do it, we're all for it, but we have to get everybody's buy-in also to be able to do that. But that's the goal.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Treasurer.
So 2 weeks delay is very good, but our unions are not going to agree because they may not agree because that means 1 week without pay. So that's a hardship for our employees. We looked into it. We discussed it with SRSC.
So, I guess I'm curious on if there is I want to say like a advance pay that then can happen to be put in place for a transition like that, so it's not a delay in pay while something like that is taking place?
One of the options I remember was the payout of personal leave, but then you're also using accrued hours that someone may have slotted for a different time throughout the year to augment or supplement that pay that would be missing for the week. So there's some options, but it would have to be a kind of a one-size-fits-all.
So if the board was to say that we will give personal days in this amount to take the hit for the delay while delay is going on, like similar to the HSA thing. If we were to say, all right, we'll take the hit and pay this out because we're creating a solution to a problem.
Right.
Do you mean you're going to give more personal days, more than the ones they have?
Well, I'm talking like if we were to do like a advance payment personal days for this amount to equate to what they would have got on their check originally, something like that, while that transition takes place.
But that advance pay, eventually they have to pay it. That's what they don't like. That's a hardship.
But we just did it with the 400,000.
No, that is not advance pay. That is, we gave them.
So can we give them the same thing while we do the switch?
If we have the money, yes.
I mean, we spend a lot of money on unnecessary things and software that don't seem to work. I
There's
think
a
we
lot
can.
of conversation. If you think about it, though, too, then you can run into different issues between that. If you pay somebody on that thing and then they leave, that's what also the treasurer is saying, too. You get the findings for that as well. Because then you're paying somebody before they wouldn't, and then they would not be employees anymore, and you paid them. And it would be absence in lieu of that payment that they would have been getting. So it creates a whole other thing. I think Ms. Reiner was, the best course of those is to talk to them because those things have already been laid out. So I think to go through it a lot here would put us in a circular conversation.
Okay, and the last question for me. On the athletic side, is there a way to create a person who is designated to nothing but process athletic supplemental pay work, HR things, just for that department?
I think it's possible, but I think the fix is actually HR taking on that role. Like we do onboarding for employees, they do onboarding for employees. But when they do their onboarding paperwork, they have to come to HR and complete the onboarding process.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. If there's
So,
like
yeah.
one person who is, since that seems to happen, sorry, Ms. Hayes.
Do you mean designate a person or
Yeah.
add one?
Like add one person who would be designated to nothing but athletic things.
The athletic department and HR department
that's-
are the largest we've ever seen them currently.
So that's what we currently have is someone, Chantel Martin Hicks, who is our HR analyst, that will be designated for the athletics. So when athletics send out their initial, hey, congratulations, you got this letter of intent, that will also go to Chantel, and that will kickstart the payroll, the documents that's needed, your tax forms, your direct deposit. That currently is not being done.
Okay, thank you. That was all I had.
Dr. Gilwan?
I did forward you guys, I got some more from adjuncts who didn't receive payment, so I did forward you those, and I did forward you some names of individuals who stated that they got that one. But I do want to thank you all for the individuals who went out on Friday to not only give out the checks that they were, so really appreciate that, because I know that was greatly appreciated. I appreciate the individuals who stayed longer and worked over the weekend to help remedy this. I do appreciate, Treasurer, that we are able to compensate individuals today, so long as we have all those things done. And I mean, I appreciate all the moving parts trying to make this right for individuals. So I want to acknowledge that and tell you just how much I personally appreciate it, because I do get a lot of calls, emails, Facebook messages, and all the above of it, and it is definitely appreciated. I hope that we get to a point that I don't have to appreciate you guys going this level, because we're getting it right the first time. And I will say too, that the IT committee is taking on some stuff on this. This is kind of one of our projects right now, which we'll be able to report back at the next meeting, what we found on our side. But I do want to thank you guys for not only giving us this information, and I do want to say, Dr. Jones, I know you said that you would like step down. I never want to see that, because you're a very talented individual. I think we have to figure some things out. When I'm asking for consequences, I'm not asking for people to leave us, because that is where we are right now, where we've had a large exodus of individuals, and we are in a situation where everyone is learning. But I do think consequence means correction most of the time for me, not necessarily termination when it comes to these things, depending on the severity of what is going on here. So I wanted you to know that that is not what I'm asking for in a consequence. I'm asking for us to just really put some things that help us get this better.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
You guys have another slide, right?
2.
Okay, I definitely want to, respect everyone's time here. And I know we're trying to get some things done, so
And
you
actually,
got to get them back there.
I'm
So
sorry, we can actually cut it down to
whatever you need to do. I know
to
some
one.
long-term things, right?
Yep, because we talked about the long terms a little bit earlier about the ERI request for proposal. We can kind of bring it into this part of the presentation. So,
Okay.
I'm going to ask Mindy Clark to come on up.
I know you got your staff here. I want them to be able to do their thing.
Good afternoon. So from a technology standpoint, we're having conversations about how on the back end we can help support that integration piece, as well as looking for some new software solutions. And then, that also brings in our new MITS contract with Sentinel, just making sure, because they do a lot of checking and making sure that our systems are actually talking to each other like they're supposed to. That is part of their contract, is actually that monitoring piece, making sure that everything stays online for us. And then also the request for a proposal and making sure that we get that information out there so that we can start really figuring out where we move next, because that's not a short-term project. That's a year and a half out for us to actually, at least from a student information standpoint, be able to move.
Appreciate that. Anything? Dr. Jones?
And actually, if you want to peruse the long-term planning page, you go through each bullet item if you like. However, this is our long-term planning. We want to have an HR consultant come in and essentially help us move into the 21st century. We want to be a 21st century HR department. We want other school districts to come to Dayton and figure out how it's done. Okay, that will take some time, but I do believe that there are organizations out there, consultants that do the work, that assist in that HR strategic planning process. Social Solutions being one, with Roz Cohen. But we need a service delivery model based on best practices and that address shortcomings. There are best practices in other organizations, other professions. We need to figure out how to adopt those best practices, be it from a software standpoint and then from a internal systems process. How do we guide the behaviors of the work that everybody does on a day-to-day basis and make sure that, again, it's a 21st century research-based, evidence-based practice. We need standard operating procedures, standardizing the work, capturing regularly recurring operations relevant to the quality of the department, such as how people are deployed, how technology is used, how processes are deployed, how work and information flows across the department, and how services are delivered. We want an organizational structure that aligns staff skill sets and competencies with job responsibilities. You asked a question earlier, and I think that is so very important. We have individuals in the HR department who really want to do a good job. And I think that because of the systems, not necessarily the software systems, some processes and procedures are not dialed in, or they don't align with what we're trying to accomplish, it renders that individual not ineffective, but not as effective as they could be. I think that could be part of the reason why 18 staff members in HR have turned over in the past 2 years. When people don't feel like they can be successful in their roles, they leave. And so I want to make sure that our processes, our internal processes and procedures are so good and aligned to what people's strengths are, we do a good job. Efficacy of processes, effectiveness of function, efficiency of productivity and quality control, mapping the HR functions and operations against best practices, again, best practices, benchmarks, metrics, and data dashboard for measuring HR practices. Currently, one of the things that really frustrated me or baffled me coming in was the fact that we don't have a data dashboard. A lot of, in education, we like to make decisions that are based on data, not conjectures, not hearsay and what people think. We want the data to drive our decision-making processes, right? And a lot of that has to be done manually. Like we have a master recruit form where we could go in and count up all the interviews we had, but it has to be done manually. So I think a data dashboard would help immensely. And then document it for optimizing technology investments, which Mindy Clark just talked about briefly.
Yeah, anything else for staff? I think that was the big thing was making sure that we hit those things that needed to be done, those emergency things, those what are we going to do right now. And then I like the conversation around how do we make sure that what we do now isn't just a quick fix, but it's also leading towards having permanent solutions. Dr. Goodwin?
Just to recap, people who have their paperwork corrected can be paid today, correct? And then individuals who don't come down here today will be paid tomorrow. Is that correct? Because that's the immediate issue right now, is individuals getting their payment for work already worked. Okay.
Mr.
And
Walker? Then Ms. Wick. Or Ms. Wick, then Mr. Walker.
What will the February 2nd check reflect? We're hopeful that everything's going to be perfect and correct or near.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
Walker?
I actually just wanted to say thank you to both teams. I know that some district staff may call and it's a lot, especially with Dayton Public Schools and all that. So thank you all for the work that you actually do. And it's definitely well appreciated, as well as for the whole HR team being here as well. Definitely appreciate it. And looking forward to the progress of this. I know it's a lot, but I think that some great people can actually do great things. Thanks.
We thank you for your support. Dr. Lawrence, we thank Dr. Lawrence for his support, your support. This is good.
All right. Just want to say thank you. You're appreciated, first off. I think you can never tell people enough that they're appreciated, even when we have these kind of situations come up. I know from my end, it's not a trying to point fingers. It's trying to say, how do we get better as a group? We're a large organization, and the best thing about large organizations is that we have to come together. That's the only way that we make this work, and the only way to really come together is with accountability. And I think for all of you all, I think if we have that spirit of accountability in fairness, though, I think sometimes we use accountability as a hammer to hit people over the head and say they did this or they did that. I think it's a we. That might be the last thing I leave you with is if you all can go back to your various spaces and think of all of the things that happen when we say, okay, payroll couldn't put this in because HR didn't enter this. HR can't get this in because transportation doesn't have that. If there is a way to take all of that conversation and make it so where, here HR, this is what we need to make this right. Here, transportation, this is what we need to make sure we get the correct information. And that way we turn this accountability piece around from being a way to point fingers into a way to hold hands and say, this is how we need to do this as a group, because that's the only way we're going to get this done. And understanding that it takes all of these people. If I don't know, I can't go to tell somebody. If a employee doesn't know what the process looks like, then they go to a board member. If that board member really doesn't know what the process looks like, then we just are out here going, we're spinning our wheels. And then we come to Dr. Lawrence or come to our treasurer Braha or go to our business manager, and now we're asking questions. And so I think the best thing is for us to have those conversations. And I think for people in those departments, our lines of communication are open. And for the board, I think we should have those lines of communication as well to be able to just talk and not to come on a fact-finding mission or a witch hunt, but to say, hey, how does your job function? And I think that's the only way we've been able to come up with some of these conversations, is coming to you and saying, hey, what is this? And then somebody does say, hey, we're having a problem in Business Plus. Or, we're having problems with this data system. We're having problems with this. And so I think the more we get to have that openness and transparency about what we need to make this thing work, the better we're going to be. So.
And I want to affirm right now, first of all, thank you everybody for your time and being here today for this last hour and a half. I really appreciate it. I would like to affirm our commitment to communicating specifically, not just with all of our employees and with all of our departments, but we're going to make sure that we do this with our bargaining units as well too. We will do everything in our power to make sure that this process over this next months, maybe a little bit longer, is collaborative and communicative, and we want what is best for every single employee in this district.
Dr. Lawrence, did you have any parting words in the next 30 seconds?
I do. I just want to say I appreciate the Treasurer's Office Hewitt and her team, they're here some nights until 12:30, 1 o'clock a.m., working on this piece. We're going to move together and get it right. I appreciate HR. There's a conversation going now, and that's progress. That's big progress, and so we're just going to keep moving forward to try to get it right. And Hewitt, I appreciate you.
Madam
I appreciate
Treasurer,
you too.
you have anything for us, Madam Treasurer?
I'm glad we are working together, and I plan to work together with HR, and I hope everything will work.
Appreciate that. And with that, that is that. We're going to keep working. We appreciate everybody, and I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. No questions I see. May we have a vote?
President Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wick,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Lacey,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt.
Yes.
7 yeses.